Hey guys, evil Mr. Alex here,
And awesome.
and we're gonna be looking at some more demands.
Let's get on with the show here.
Demand 21 through 23. Gap fillers, cheap guns, and a GE standalone gun.
Alright, so for the first slide here, we got the M3 Stuart and the RSO. Let's start with the Stuart. Well, for a while, still in the game, really, the Americans don't have a tier 2 light tank or a fourth light tank in their arsenal. So for the Stuart here we have 58 kph on the road, has crappy armor, 37 mil, so same as the M5, and it should be a cheap tank, of course. RSO, you know, Germany does have a Kettenkrad, but it's missing an actual tracked car. So I'm suggesting RSO. It goes 20 to about 30 kph on the road. I say it should have 2 crates, kind of just like a Weasel. It has a high silhouette, obviously. It's a really tall vehicle, and really it should be expensive per spawn.
But it's got a track.
It's got a track.
It looks cool. The Americans, I mean, do they really need a tier 2? I feel like, yeah, they're missing the fourth tank in there. This one would just be cheap and work with token system. I mean, because depending on how they set up the token system, they should definitely be bringing it out, but you know, it's just an extra tank in the lineup. Fill in their little badge slots that you got going.
Alright, so on this next slide here, it's just one of the pictures that I saw on the dev stream. Clearly you can see that the Americans are missing a tank in this area here. Like, down below, you may not be able to read it, but it actually says M22 Locust. That is an American tank, but it's like an aircraft tank. Like, you'd shove it in a glider, and then they could get a glider behind enemy lines, and then out poops this little tank. But for their infantry, they don't have this tank. I could imagine the Locust being for the paratroopers in a way, but they need this gap filled.
Number 3 badge. Definitely looks like it's definitely missing. Gotta put something there.
Alright, go on, next slide here. We have some submachine gun gap fillers. We have, for the Americans, the Rising. I think that's how you say it. I might have butchered that word, but you got Rising. And then for the Germans, you'd have the ZK-383 Czech submachine gun. So looking at the Rising, we have about 500 RPM. It's not like super great. I mean, you have to keep in mind it will be the tier 1 submachine gun, so it's not supposed to be good. Crappy velocity, only 20 round mag. That's the same as the MP34. I believe it still fires the same bullet type as like a Thompson, their pistol, Colt. And as a bonus, it's been shipped to the Soviet Union, but I don't think the Soviets will get this gun, considering they already have a full SMG lineup. Now, looking at the German one, the ZK, 500 to 700 RPM, that's actually pretty good. Like, in fact, I think that's better than the MP40 that the Germans have right now. Velocity, 460, also better. 40 rounds in the mag, that's 8 bullets more. I think it still fires the same ammunition type, about the same, like 9 mil. But as a bonus, it gets a bipod. It's kind of weird, but maybe that might work for the bipod system in the future?
Yeah, so tier 1, so it would go I guess that would basically replace the grease gun, and then the grease gun would get pushed a little further up the tech path. And 40 round mag, that's a lot for an SMG. I mean, they could easily be changed and lowered to like 30. 40's asking for a lot. But that sounds, but tier 3, so, you know, maybe SMGs could actually get some loving. Get used quite a bit. And as far as RPM goes, yeah, I do believe that falls basically in line with MP40. 700, that's a good amount.
Yeah, like the grease gun is already pretty good, almost to be its own tier 2, right? Like,
yep.
That thing's great, especially when you got that black skin on it. Extra damage.
That's right, extra damage.
Alright. Go on to the next slide here. We have
cheap guns.
Cheap guns, yeah. I'll explain it in the next slide, what I mean by that, but we're just going to look at some stats here. So, looking at the VG, we have it's semi-automatic, 600 velocity, it's alright. 30 round clip, that's decent. And it fires the same bullet that the Sturmgewehr fires, but it's got some drawbacks for it being a cheap gun. I should say it should, you know, it has poor range, and it should really be like a 4 to 5 hit kill, you know, pretty much just like a Sturmgewehr. Now for the Russians, we have SKS, which I believe has been confirmed in a dev stream. I don't really know which one, but it's certainly coming. Looking at the stats here, we got semi-automatic, 735 meters per second, that's decent. 10 round stripper clip. Now, that's not a lot of ammo to go with, but it'll get the job done. 7.62, slightly smaller than the VG here, but we got, for drawbacks, heavy recoil, and maybe this thing should be like a 3 to 4 hit kill, maybe a 2 hit kill, I don't really know. Considering it's a cheap gun, it shouldn't be all that good.
Yeah, I feel like these are fairly decent. Definitely on the German one, no scope. And yeah, probably 4 hit kill if it's like modded out to the extreme. I could see that. 3 to 4 hit kill on the SKS. Probably, yeah. 3 hits sounds pretty decent. Pretty good, actually. For only 10 rounds, though, like, you have to make that thing a 3 hit.
Yeah,
and
really.
For it being a semi-auto, I mean.
Yeah. It really, like, the primary thing about, like, what I'm trying to say about these weapons is, like, you know, you should have, like, a crappy enough weapon, but better than a pistol as far as range.
Oh, yeah, these would outrange pistols, for sure.
Yeah. So going on to another slide here about some things I want to talk about these cheap guns. So really it'd be like adding in cheaper gun options for upcoming token system, because, you know, we played the prototype, we've been there, we know that this is the direction that the Rito guys want to put the game in. So, you know, let's throw some suggestions of having cheap guns here, because we know we're gonna get killed in the spawn a lot.
I want to save my tokens.
Yeah, we want to save our tokens. So VG and SKS both added as cheaper options for both new token system and as low credit cost guns. So even if, let's just say, they didn't have the token system, you know, you could just still throw in these guns in the game for, you know, for being a cheapy McCheap master. So it should cost about, you know, 70 to 100 tokens. It'll cost you about 46,000 creds, which is what the M1 carbines are in the game right now. beneficial for both noobs and tryhards alike who love low repair costs, low point loss. And at the bottom here, I say, either M1 or M1A1 carbine should be used, but I think they'll probably end up just using the M1, the one you can get a scope on, just for like balance. I don't know how it would really work if one of the cheap guns had a scope and the other two didn't. That's really up to them if they can take the scope off or not. And, with these weapons, they should have poor performance. They'll have shorter range than the better semi-autos, the starters. And you should be able to unlock it at Defense Silver 5 badge, because it's more like a defense weapon than really an assault weapon.
Yeah, it's not too long of a grind, and they're cheap enough. And yeah, cheapy McCheap cheap.
Alright, so going on to another gap filler here.
I see something new.
Tier 2 LMG DT-29 light machine gun. As far as we can see by the stats here, I mean, it's really not that far off from a regular DP, but to be honest, I couldn't really find another Russian LMG. But, looking at the stats, we got slightly higher RPM, 600, 63 round mag. I believe that's 16 more bullets in a mag compared to the DP. I think it has the same velocity, 840, and I believe it also fires the same bullet, if I'm not mistaken, but the sight is slightly obstructive.
Well, yeah, look at that thing. What are you supposed to look at with that thing?
Yeah.
Like, you get the ammo kind of covering in the front of it, because the damn drum is so massive.
And to really think about it, they wouldn't really need to do much with this gun. The gun is already in the game. It's already on the BA-64. You just take it off, give it to infantry. So really all they would need to do is add a few more stats and boom, you got a new gun for your infantry dude.
Even with the slightly obstructive iron sight, like, there's a lot of iron sights already in the game that are already obstructive, so it wouldn't be, too impactful.
It's really a trade-off whether you want a slightly obstructive iron sight for better performance weapon, like more RPM, more ammo, or would you rather have the not so obstructive iron sight for lower RPM and such. Alright, going on to the next slide here, we got the Fedorov Automat. Now, I say this should be a Tier 3 LMG. I mean, it might be a little confusing, but, they in World War I, they did actually use it as an LMG, so in a way you could kind of get away with it, despite it looking like an assault rifle. So, looking at this thing, it's got low RPM, 350 to 400. So it really is like an assault rifle in that way. Velocity 654, 25 round mag. That's pretty decent. If it's like a 3-hit kill weapon, it'd be like a better ABS in a way.
A lot better.
Yeah. But the downside is maybe you can't have a scope on it. So that's really the trade-off. Would you rather have a weapon that'll have,
lower rate of fire, no scope, but better total ammo?
Yeah. Now at the bottom here I said, for balance, like, GE would get their FG42 as a Tier 3 LMG on the infantry, or maybe like some other suggestion that I have in the next slide or 2 slides.
But overall, it could work. It looks alright.
Yeah.
Could bring out some new balance or new changes. There's something else for Soviets to look forward to or try out.
And go on, next one here. We have another Czech gun, of course. ZB-26. I'd say this should be like a GE Tier 2 LMG if we assume that the FG can't be on the infantry. 500 RPM, that's decent. 744 meters per second velocity. It's also good. 20 round mag, that's where it's not as good. But the thing is, it has a forward grip, so in a way you could actually like shoot on the move with a bit more accuracy. But of course, with the clip obstructing the sight, that's pretty much what you're going to be using this gun for, is mostly just hip firing rather than aiming down the sight. So I mean, it's an interesting gun to have in the game. I mean, Germany would be gimped in one way by having another slightly heavier weapon, where like the Americans and the Russians will have, they have the Automat, maybe that'll be lighter, and then you'll have the Johnson, that's a lighter weapon. They'll be able to carry more. Well, Germans will just have decent LMGs.
It looks like it just reminds me of a BAR with how the clip looks. Just, it's going the wrong way. So yeah, Tier 2, maybe even Tier 1. But Tier 2, I mean, what's wrong with having 3 LMGs to choose between? Or just an LMG that you can work toward your next gun, or maybe it's, slightly cheaper.
Yeah. I could definitely seeing this be a Tier 2 or maybe a Tier 1. It looks like a good gun.
Could you give the
Yeah, we need
G42
to-
and the Fedorov Automate for infantry or paratroopers?
Yeah, the Federal maybe, I would say. It seems like a good weapon. We also discussed the SKS for the Soviet Paras. FG42 for the infantry. Russian infantry maybe. German no way.
Okay,
Now, going on to another suggestion to fill the gap. If, let's just say, the Germans don't get that LMG, or they don't get the FG as an LMG on the infantry, we could have maybe this nice looking little Schnellfire thing. Well, it's a pretty good gun, it fires 1,000 rounds per minute, which is crazy for a little machine pistol. Velocity is not that good, of course, 425 meters per second. It doesn't even have that much ammo either. Like 20 round clip, you're going to be burning through ammo like crazy. Of course, it being a pistol, you're going to have short range, heavy recoil because of that fast fire rate. It's very light, which is actually probably one of the really other good things about this weapon. So maybe you can carry it with a rifle, like double up and be like an OP infantry character in a way. And of course it should be mega expensive. Like, it's a pistol that's a submachine gun in a way.
This thing just reminds me of like an M2 carbine. You fire off your whole, 20, 30 round clip at 1,000 rate of fire, and then you just instantly destroy one guy and just mess his day up. And then you reload it. Then you go find your next victim.
Yeah, pretty much, actually. Just to recap, this is just gonna be like what the tech tree is gonna be like. So, M3 Stuart, and fills that gap. Got it. Submachine gun tech tree, Rising at Tier 1, and then the ZK at Tier 3, filling those gaps. Done. There you go. Now you got some more gaps filled. You got the ROS for a tracked car. Then for the cheapy McCheap, you get the SKS and the VG. Now for the LMG tech trees, it gets a little weird. So the US, you already have your 3. Soviet Union, you got your DT and your Automat. So for Germany, you got the ZB-26, or you got an alternate idea, which is you put the FG on the infantry. But just like we've seen in the video back here, we don't really think they're ever going to add the FG. But if in a final case they don't add the FG or the ZB, they should add the Schnellfire to maybe have like an extra weapon to fight maybe close quarters or something, opposed to maybe getting nothing at all.
Yeah, I'll take the last option.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool.
That'd be pretty ridiculously, like, unique to the faction, or... It just sounds... It sounds a little too crazy and just, you know, different from, like, what's already out there right now. As far as, like, faction balance goes.
Alright, and going on to the end here, I got a few questions. So, the first question is, should the FG-42 be for infantry, for better balance, or does the ZB-26 make more sense for a GE LMG? Personally, I think, yeah, maybe the ZB makes more sense, because they definitely said they won't add the FG. I have that feeling like they never will add the FG to infantry.
They don't want to make Germans too good, man.
Yeah.
Apparently Germans are already good, but I don't know where they're getting these stats from.
Yeah, I would definitely love to see the FG as an infantry weapon, but you know what? We're never gonna see it. So, second question, if not, should GE get a Schnellfire to fill the gap, or just be an extra standalone weapon? Like, just, maybe you get the ZB, and you get an extra standalone weapon? Like the Schnellfire?
It's already in the game, just put it in my pocket.
Yeah. It'd be pretty cool. I don't know how the other factions would react to that, though. Maybe I actually do. Maybe they wouldn't really like that at all.
Well, they already nerfed, you know, guns based on community feedback. So, I'm sure it would get the appropriate feedback and changes would be applied here and there.
I think the Americans really wouldn't like the Schnellfire, because it'd be basically, just like you said, giving the Germans their own M2 carbine, their own little pray and spray machine gun. Now for the final question here, should every faction get a cheap standalone weapon for the upcoming token system on infantry, SKS, VG, M1 carbine? I think even if they didn't have the token system coming up, I still think like these weapons could be cool to have just on infantry alone. Maybe you don't want to be such a try-hard all the time. You want to try to act like a noob and just like use the crappy guns but still do good with them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like even if nothing else gets added in, these things could be cool on a new, even like a starter infantry guy. Like you come into the game and that's the gun that you get. You know, instead of like it could even replace like like that's the first gun that you start using, or like you said, you know, it's just a cheap alternate kind of gun that's just thrown in there.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you want to see another demands video like this, tell me. Maybe put some suggestions in the comments section.
Stuka.
Yeah, right. Well, we already covered that one, I believe.
Yeah, we sure did.
Tell me what you think, if you've seen anything on the token system, like, maybe talk about that, like, just tell me what you think about that. But, anyways, be making some videos soon, and we'll see you on the next one.
Have a great one.